It's time to get nerdy, y'all.
A little bit of gaming history for you.
Something relevant in gaming and discuss our opinions on it.
Should we kick it out of here, or should we kick-start it?
This is the part where you, the listeners, try to stump the hosts.
I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on a podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Tuesday, August 1st, 2023. And you know what that means. It's time to get nerdy, y'all. Welcome to episode number 276 of Two Nerds in a Pod, the nerdiest video game podcast in the galaxy. I am Lom, also known as Mr. Nice Guy, and I'm joined by my comrade in gaming commentary. He's wearing a clean, blue collared shirt. I like the look. The miggity Mac, also known as Maction. Mac, how you been? Stepping up the clothing game. I love it.
I am doing great, Mr. Nice Guy. Have had a lot of things. Now, last week we weren't able to get together. Entirely my fault, but for good reason. Friends who were moving out this way, wanted to hang out and crash. And so basically had a whole week really of hanging out between work, come home, hang out with friends for, 6 or so days. And then, and then just lather, rinse, repeat. It was a real good time.
That's awesome. So how close to you are they moving?
They're moving to Portland. So it'll be, however 4 or 5 hours, whatever it is, away. So it's not exactly close, but it's closer. And it's it's a drive that I can easily do in a day, as opposed to what was previously going to be like a, all night or all day kind of travel thing.
Okay.
It bodes well for future meetups, is what I'm saying.
That is so cool, man. It's so much nicer when you have friends close. Like, I get it. It's dope doing a podcast over the internet. It's awesome doing a GURPS game over the internet. But there's something about that couch co-op, baby. You just can't be beat. Well, I'm happy for you. Trying to think what I've been up to. Working on the jokes, man. Like, going hard with the jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Don't really want to get into the topics, but hitting the stages, so much on my mind, so much good stuff to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good time to be a comedian. And took my kids up to an amusement park in Green Bay last week called Bay Beach. Which, Mac, if you ever come up here, we'll have to go just for kicks and giggles. It's like an hour 30 drive from my house.
Not bad.
But every ticket at this amusement park is 25 cents. So if you're a baller on a budget like all of us are, you can ride the roller coaster for $1. The Tippin' Pippin, I believe it's called, is $1, 4 tickets. And so, $40, large family.
Mm-hmm.
We're there for 3 hours. We're having a great time. So that was fun.
That's incredible. We're doing it. That'll be fantastic. Yeah, baller on a budget indeed.
Baller on a budget. Well, hey, we're ballers on a budget, but we're also ballers on a podcast. And Mac, I say we do what we do best. And hop right up in that gaming news, man. What do you think about that?
Absolutely, let's do it. But I do want to give a quick word that the nominations for Podcast Awards have officially closed as of, midnight last night. So in a couple of days, we will find out whether or not we made the final slate. And from there, we await with bated breath until the end of September to find out whether or not we can take home another trophy and have a three-peat.
Well, Mac, let's start with something that's all about aesthetics, because I own a Steam Deck, you own a Steam Deck, so many of our listeners own a Steam Deck, and one of the coolest things about Steam Deck is the customization. There's a new way you can customize your deck. They have full shell replacements. Did you know this?
I have heard tell that you could replace your shell, and I would love to get one of those slightly transparent. If they had one of those atomic purple ones that kind of like the Nintendo 60.
They do.
Oh, be still my beating heart. Tell me more.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So this is actually an old article, but there's not really a new article about this since it's happened. This is from The Verge, written by Sean Hollister. My favorite new Steam Deck mod is this $30 see-through heat sink backplate I wrote in January. Wake me up when someone makes a transparent front shell, some readers told me. While your nap is nearly over, JSOX just confirmed to overkill.wtf that a transparent front shell is on the way, providing the image you see atop this story. And Extreme Rate tweeted this earlier today. Introducing the first ever full housing shell for the Steam Deck. Play different with more stunning color options. So, and it says, Mac, in reading your mind, it says, yes, atomic purple is an option. So, Mac, this is cool. These are not like extremely expensive when you consider that you're getting a whole new shell for your deck. I think they're $35 to $40, which isn't like super cheap, but it's not like you're paying $100, right?
Yeah.
So here's my question for you, because we all like aesthetics, but in order to do this, you have to completely disassemble your Steam Deck. Take out like all the pieces. It's like a 3 to 5 hour thing. You put them back in. You have to take the screen out very carefully, take off the thermal paste that's in there, reapply thermal paste. It's hard to get it perfect, but it looks so beautiful. For Maction, is that type of an undertaking worth it to have a really, really nice looking deck?
Oh man. Yeah, that is the question, isn't it?
Consider the risk.
Yeah, the risk, the reward, but the reward.
The reward.
I would say I'm right there on the cusp because I would love it, and that atomic purple. But yeah, a multi-hour step process in order to make an aesthetic change. That's a tall order, even for atomic purple. But the price is nice.
Yeah, the price isn't bad. And it's interesting because I've read about a lot of different mods you can do for the deck. They have the Ghillie Kit sensors that are magnetic, so they completely eliminate the possibility of stick drift. Those are like $30 for those replacement joysticks. Additionally, if you feel like you don't have enough space in your deck, you can put in a different SSD card. There's just a lot of cool stuff that Valve has given us the capability to do. But for you, you're right on the cusp of that shell replacement. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, just because that's a big investment of time. And while I'm not concerned about the stuff, and not to overhype my own skills, but I used to tear apart tablets and put them back together on the regular. So I feel like I have the tooling and the experience in order to make it happen. But it's just that investment of that many hours. Hours that, frankly, I could be playing on said Steam Deck with. But if I get that atomic purple case, then nobody will mistake my Steam Deck for theirs. There are many like it, but that one would be mine.
Except other people that have the atomic purple, right?
Oh, it
now,
can't possibly be popular, Mr. Nice Guy. I'm the only person in the history of ever who's wanted the atomic purple,
right?
Clearly.
Right. That's why it was mentioned directly in the article that that's an option. You're the only one that was for you that was mentioned.
He's speaking directly to me and only me.
They just need to sell one for it to be profitable. So once Mac buys one, they're set, right?
Exactly.
It's interesting because Extreme Raid is also putting out different color buttons and D-pad, which I think is awesome because you replace the shell and you can pick like a complementary color to your purple or to your green, whatever you decide to go with. And it just looks really, really fresh, really, really clean, really unique. It's just a matter of, is the risk worth the reward? Now, for me, it's about time as much as it is about my lack of ability. You helped me build my PC. I could not have done it without you.
You would have figured it out. Put tab A into slot B. You would have been great, man.
Let me rephrase that. It went way faster and much cleaner with you here. So I appreciate you for that forever.
That I will accept. You are welcome. Thanks for letting me be part of the process. And it was a great excuse. We had a good time.
It was a fun hang. But I mean, the idea of me doing a Steam Deck replacement like that, shell replacement, it's a little daunting. There's videos on the internet. You can learn how to do anything on the internet, right? But you can also make mistakes. And so it's scary to me. But this looks really cool. If you're a Steam Deck owner, check these out. It may be worth your while. Mac, news story number 2 from blog.playstation.com. This is interesting because I'm always super curious about technological upgrades that come to hardware mid-gen via software updates. So this is on PlayStation blog. With each PlayStation 5 system software release, were introduced new features designed to enhance the many ways you can access your favorite content, navigate your console, or create new gaming memories with friends. Today, we're thrilled to roll out a new PS5 system software beta that introduces new accessibility features as well as audio options that allow 3D audio, powered by Tempest 3D audio tech, to be enjoyed on compatible Dolby Atmos-enabled HDMI devices such as soundbars, TVs, or home theater systems. The beta also includes more options to quickly find games on console tips, new ways to connect with other players and customize your multiplayer sessions, and, this is the kicker to me, support for larger capacity M.2 SSDs, up to 8 terabytes. So this is beta access. Mac, my question for you is this, and we're hypothesizing here, like, why can this stuff not be done at the beginning of the gen? The ability to use 3D audio, Dolby Atmos enabled devices. Most importantly, the ability for the hardware to support an 8 terabyte SSD drive. Why do we have to go, oh, hey, now it can support 2, but now there's a software update that lets you support 8? Like, I feel like they hold back on us at first. Am I right?
I mean, it's tough to know. I don't know much about the system architecture. It certainly seems that way. I can see a situation where a company winds up optimizing their software in such a way that they realize they can squeeze a bit extra performance out of something, and that it takes them time. Now, how many years have we had the PS5? I don't know.
Let's see. PS5 came out 2020.
Okay.
Like November 2020. So we're on year 3.
Yeah, so 3 years in, I can certainly see them like figuring out some ways to squeeze a little bit of performance. Let's not forget, like, some of the, like, Little Samson for the NES at the end of the life cycle, darn near like 8-10 years in, and all the while Nintendo, and as well as, you know, other game manufacturers in those days, were figuring out how to squeeze just a little bit more performance, optimize the code, get things smaller and quicker, and allow a lot of cool new tricks. So I can see that being the case. But Mr. Nice Guy, I mean, I'm with you there that I feel like it certainly is the case that companies will often hold back just a little bit so that they can give a mid-cycle refresh, a little something, a stretch goal, as we call it in the biz.
A stretch goal.
Yeah.
In the Kickstarter biz. Hey, I think that's actually, you made me think about some points I did not think about. So, number one, I think back to Super Nintendo. And Super Mario RPG was one of the last SNES games released. It was gorgeous, and I'm pretty sure on the cover of Nintendo Power that month, there was something to the effect of, if we have stuff this good looking on the SNES, do we really need the N64? And so you're right, like, end of gen, people realize the capabilities, and they realize how to use those capabilities to get the most juice out of the squeeze. So you bring up some really, really valid points. The other thing I was going to bring up, and it's interesting. We've heard rumors of a PlayStation 5 Pro that could be coming, or a Slim, or some type of refresh. I almost wonder if all of these beta features could potentially hurt the sales of the new PlayStation, because you'd have to think that one of the features of the Pro would be a bigger hard drive, potentially better sound, but yet they're giving that to us on our current PS5. And I like that, but I'm just curious. It'll be interesting to see what happens, or what other features we don't know about will come with the next Pro. So that's just something to think about. Mac, anything else you want to say about this story, my man?
Just that I'm glad we're getting a little bit more for those of you guys who were able to find a PS5. I don't know if the supply is still limited, but I feel like a lot of people, are able to get their hands on it if they want the PS5. So I hope that this bodes well for the continued support of the console, and for many games yet to come for the PS5 for all of you who went out there and bought one.
Now, we started a couple minutes late today, so we have one more news story, Mac, and this is the big one. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on this. This is the one this week. Nintendo's next console will reportedly be portable, like the Switch, targeting second half 2024 release by Wesley LeBlanc on GameInformer.com. Nintendo next console will reportedly be portable like the Switch, and is targeting a release in the second half of 2024. I love how the title is always the first sentence of the article. Gotta love it. According to a new report today from Video Games Chronicle, VGC cites multiple people with knowledge of Nintendo's next-gen console plans that reveal Nintendo's Switch successor is aiming for a release, once again redundant, in the second half of next year to ensure there's plenty of stock at launch. Nintendo wants to avoid the stock shortages that plagued the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and S, released for months and years for some. Mac, here's my question for you. Like, we're both ballers on a budget. Like, neither of us is balling out of control, as the kids would say.
As the youths would indicate.
As the youngins would say. Nintendo Switch, or Nintendo Switch 2, let's call it, comes out 2024. you didn't pick up the Switch, and that's totally cool, but let's say it's backwards compat. Let's say that you can pick up that next-gen hotness, and you can play all of the old library that maybe you missed out on. Are you going to set your pride aside? Say, you know what, Nintendo, we've had some issues in the past, but I love me some Mario. And are you going to pick that bad boy up?
I love you for couching this as a situation where I'm the one taking the high road, where I'm the one being the bigger man. I love how you put this to me as a Mac. This is a chance for Boromir of Gondor to show his character. And I say nay, I say no, I say taking my pride to the grave. Nintendo can put a Switch in my hands when they're cold and dead in the ground. In all realism, though, I think it would depend on a number of factors: price, availability, the games that were coming out for it, because I cannot deny that Nintendo has so many incredibly skilled people working and incredibly visionary game makers involved in their projects, and I hate to miss out on them, and I've had some luck being able to, work with or pick up stuff. But anyway, point being is that I don't know if I would be able to set aside my pride, because I'm that's just not who I am, Mr. Nice Guy. If I don't have my pride, what do I have?
I understand 100%. Here's my thing. I'm super curious, and I feel like we have this conversation a lot, like when it's coming from one gen to the next, where it's like, what features could Nintendo possibly add? Could Sony possibly add to make this update worth it? Because at this point, Nintendo is always lagging behind in terms of graphical fidelity, in terms of sound, in terms of online capabilities. But they just have really, really fun exclusives. And so there's a couple things I would like to see, Mac, in my dream console from Nintendo Next Gen. Can I share those with you?
Absolutely. I insist. Share them with me, Nice Guy. I have to know what would make it for you.
So, one of them is voice chat. That's something that everyone else has, but you've got to give us some type of voice chat, so that when we're playing Mario Kart, we can communicate with the people who just hit us with the red shell and say, hey, that was not necessary, right? We got to be able to have some fun verbally with people online. The other thing is some type of achievement. I've played so many Nintendo games over the years. Steam has Steam achievements. PlayStation has trophies. Xbox has achievements. I want to have a record and bragging rights for my Nintendo profile that shows what I have done. Another thing that I wish they would have done, and they've said they're not going to do, is put an OLED screen in this bad boy. How is it that we have a Switch OLED, but you're not going to put an OLED in this new handheld? To me, it's just it's weird. I get trying to keep costs down, but give us a good screen, Nintendo. Come on. We don't play in dock mode all the time. And the last thing, Mac, and I think they'll do this, is they've got to have it be backwards compatible. Give us 4K capabilities. That's a must as well. But give us backwards compat so that I don't have to play my Switch with all the old library and then have this new thing with whatever new type of cartridge they choose to go with. That's it for me. Anything else you want to say about this before we move on?
I can't think of anything more than what you've already said. But, because from a hardware perspective, I think between you and them, nailed it.
Well, hey, that's been our news for the week. Back to you, Mac.
All right, well, now that we've looked around at what's going on right now, let's look into the past, because, we can't forget where we came from. And this last week, in years before, we've had a whole bunch of really cool things. And I'm going to come back to one that released in 2012, Mr. Nice Guy, because I want us to talk about what it means, not just as a game, but what it means to us. But before I get there, a couple of things to mention. Back in July of 2003, the second Lara Croft movie was released. It cost them $95 million to make, and it brought in $156 million. We've been talking generally this whole year in video game history, sort of shining a light on all the video game movies. A lot of that has been to do with, the Super Mario Brothers movie has been a runaway success, but video game movies generally haven't always been successes. But the Lara Croft movie, both 1 and 2, wound up being quite good by those metrics of what they made. A couple of other interesting things. Back in 1998, the release for the PC of War Games. It was a real-time strategy game based on the 1983 film starring Matthew Broderick, a young Matthew Broderick, the film War Games. So, fairly standard game. The real trick is that all the things that the game packed in it, like I said, real-time strategy games, good artwork, things like that, and a computer virus. Because the discs that got sent out to people included a computer virus in the electronic registration component of the program. And once you registered the copy, the virus would take hold in your system. I don't know if it's the only time that we've had computer viruses go out with video games, but I think it might have been the first by most definitions of viruses. One more, and then Mr. Nice Guy, I'm coming back to you with a special bit of history.
I'm excited.
Nice Guy, do you remember the IDSA, the Interactive Digital Software Association?
I don't. Refresh my memory.
No worries. It was today in 1994. They had been formed earlier in 1994, but it was today in 1994 that they announced their video game rating system to the world. As a direct response to the Senate hearings in 1993 and the threat in early 1994 that the government was going to itself form a rating and regulation board, the game publishers banded together to form the IDSA in April and worked to make their rating system. Meanwhile, Sega, who had originally attempted to license the MPAA rating system for movies, but were told to pound sand, had made their own video gaming rating council in the mid 1993, and were just standing in the corner as the IDSA was doing their thing, just like, am I a joke to you guys? But rather than rely on the work of Sega, the rest of the industry made their ranking and moved on from there, forming the ESRB about a month later to push the ratings, and the IDSA would later go on to rebrand itself in 2003 as the Entertainment Software Association. The name we definitely recognize today. So sorry for setting you up on that one, Mr. Nice Guy. But
love it.
But this is the one that's definitely not a setup, and that was the release in 2012 of Deadlight. Mr. Nice Guy, I have some fond memories and feelings about this one, but anything you want to share about this one?
You know what, Mac? It's funny because I actually consider rebuying it every once in a while because it's one of my favorite indies of all time. Takes place in Seattle, zombie killing, 2D platforming, kind of like Limbo-ish, Inside-ish, those type of games. And, we met the devs. I remember we got to play the demo at E3. We met the devs, did a quick video interview. And it's a great game that holds a special place in my heart. I have a T-shirt, by the way. Yeah. I think you might too, somewhere.
Yeah.
We both had T-shirts of the game.
Yeah. For me, it encapsulates the game itself. I like the game, enjoy the game, but anytime I think about it, it just evokes for me this time, this memory, this place, you and me in LA together having a good time, ordering, right on the rocks at the
that was fun.
Yeah, at the red carpets.
Non-alcoholic drinks to a frustrated bartender.
Yeah, he was excited to mix, and he did not get to mix. But anyway, that has been our video game history for this week.
Fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Indie Game of the Week, a segment where we talk about a game that may need more attention and bring it to your attention. And Mac, this week we're going to talk about a game that's reminiscent of Dead Cells. It's a roguelite. In fact, it has some similarities to Deadlight in the fact that it's a platforming, side-scrolling game. And the game we're going to talk about today is called Trinity Fusion. So here's Trinity Fusion on Steam. Explore dark sci-fi worlds and engage in fast-paced and precise combat in Trinity Fusion, a roguelite action platformer set in a sprawling, doomed multiverse. Mac, 59 reviews on Steam. Very positive rating. Release date April 13th, 2023. Developer and publisher Angry Mob Games. Before we get to Mac's thoughts, we did get the keys for this from Angry Mob Games for review. Thank you for that, but it will not affect our opinions. Mac, what did you think about this game?
So it took me a while to get into Trinity Fusion. And not for any reason related to the artwork, which I really quite like, the tone, the setting, or even the lore. But the thing that I think I struggled with initially was trying to find a style that worked out well for me. There were an awful lot of options for you to fiddle around with, but different weapons you can pick up, and you can really just have like a weapon at a time. But I really struggled to kind of, find the loadout that worked well. But once I did, I started to make a lot more progress and get a lot farther along. You've got stuff that you can, kind of like gather and then buy up for your continued runs. And so long as your multiversal counterparts are safe, you'll just get to keep starting it over again. Or at least that's sort of the in-universe explanation for why you can die and keep coming back. But yeah, I liked it. There were a couple of things that, like I said, took me a while to get used to. But yeah, I feel like it won me over. But it did take me a little while to come around. How about you, Mr. Nice Guy?
Now, a couple things I forgot to mention. Game is in early access. And also, current price point is $24.99. Mac, we'll get to what you think about that price point in a minute. I enjoyed the game. And I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would based on the videos. And I'm starting to see more and more, a lot of game companies make a really, really good video, as they should. And the gameplay doesn't quite match up. There are certain aspects of this game that I feel are unfinished, but once again, it's in early access. I feel like the graphics could be a little bit more crisp, and it's not like they were going for that look. I just feel like there's something missing there. Also, it says precise combat in the description, and I feel like this game, as I'm playing it, kind of felt like I was playing at like 80% speed. Like your character, it kind of like floats. They don't float literally, but it just seems like they're not moving as precisely as they should when you're jumping, when you're hitting, when you're sliding. I thought it could have been a little bit tighter. That said, I really, really like the atmosphere. And like you said, I really, really like the artwork. And I think that this game has a lot of potential. I like that they included story elements. A lot of games on the Steam Deck have print that is too small. I feel like the print was perfectly sized to be able to read, and that's an important thing. And it has full controller support, so that's good. There's a lot good about this game, but there's some things that could be tightened up. Mac, what do you think about the price point of $24.99 for this game?
So I have still, as of yet, not gotten as far as I think the game goes.
Me too.
As you go on, you unlock, Trinity, there's 3 different versions, multiversal components of yourself that you can essentially unlock and play with, and they have little differences in how they play. One has a double jump right at the start, the other, doesn't, but has like this little dash, things like that. But there is still plenty of game left for me to explore and see. So I feel like maybe the content is there, because whether or not $24.99 is a good price, a price that makes sense for me, is going to be based on how much eventual content the game has. And that's another difficult thing to judge in an early access. How much more content will there be? But so far, I've not been disappointed in the amount of content. So I'm tentatively, I feel like that's a fine price for me.
See, and I So here's the thing. I've learned that you cannot compare game to game when it comes to price and hours that you're getting at it. Right? We can't compare this to Skyrim. We can't compare this to Shovel Knight and be like, well, Shovel Knight, you basically got like 3 full games for $24.99. It's just not right to do things that way sometimes. But with a roguelite, unless it's giving you, tons and tons and tons of replayability, I haven't seen roguelites priced at $24.99. I think that this is a smidge too high. I think if they would have dropped, to $19.99, that would have been the sweet spot for this type of game, especially because it's in early access, and often when games come out of early access, the price goes up. Because now it's finished, now you're getting the full product with all the content, it's now $30. I think they should have gone $19.99. Mac, bottom line, is this a game that you can recommend to people who like this genre?
Yeah, I think so. You did mention a minute ago Dead Cells, and I would like to just throw out there that it's fair to put it out there. They're the same genre, so it's a different feel. But I think it's appealing to those people who are in the same thing. And I like Dead Cells, and I also like this. So yeah,
awesome. I would agree with you. I can recommend it. My thing would be, as I'd say with almost all games, try to get it on sale. Wait for a Steam sale, or when this publisher just has it on sale. But I think that this is a game that has a lot of potential, and even if they leave it as is, I think that it is something that you should play if you like this genre. That's what I have to say. That has been our indie game of the week.
All right. Well, now we turn to a crowdfunding project that's trying to get off of the ground. We call this Kick or Kickstart. I am going to paste a link in the chat to an ongoing Kickstarter. We'll talk about it. We'll discuss some of the virtues, some of the vices, and then at the end we'll say whether or not it should be kicked out of here or kickstarted. And before I talk about this, and while Mr. Nice Guy's pulling up, I just have to say, if you've seen that Kickstarter for a thing called Hesta, to turn your smartphone into a smart telescope, do not buy into that BS. It is nonsense. It is terrible. I cannot begin to explain to you all the ways in which they are taking your money. Do not do it. Come to me. I will give you actual practical ways to do the astrophotography you need. Nerd Next Door will absolutely be there for you. Anyway, all that is to say, let's go to the game. So, Absence of Light. This is a twin-stick shooter game, which means that it's almost an entirely exploration and shooting game. Shooting in the style of a sort of 2D top-down, kind of ship-to-ship kind of style. One joystick will be for movement and the other for directional shooting. There's a 4K goal, 4,000 goal, that they're nearing the halfway point here. They're also almost halfway to the deadline there. And a November delivery on this game, which seems very, very fast by most Kickstarter, speeds. And $10 is the minimum buy-in price for this. It has a feel to it that I kind of like. Now, I will note that longtime listeners of the show will note that I usually dislike twin-stick shooters and have caught a little bit of flack for my dislike for Smash TV. And to those of you booing at me, I just want to say your boos mean nothing. I've seen what makes you cheer. But I do like what I see here. Okay, it has a dash of the neon bubblegum art style that I loved from Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time.
Yes.
There's just something about it that speaks to me. But Mr. Nice Guy, as always, where my words fail, yours tend to speak volumes. What's your take?
Seeing it for the first time, I like the look. The look is cool. And before you said that it was $10, I was like, nah, because we just have too much stuff like this. It's interesting, Mac, as we've been blessed, for years and years of games coverage, and we're now getting, lots of people who appreciate our perspective and want to hear what we have about games or hear about what we have to say about games, I'm a little bit more hesitant to say, yes, this game looks good and yes, you should kickstart it, because every game looks good. And like I said when we were just talking about this last game, a lot of people are better at making a video of a game than they are at actually making a game. And this to me seems derivative of so much that we already have. So I'm very hesitant, but the $9.99 or $10 price point is awesome. We don't see enough Kickstarters asking for that price point. So that's a positive.
Mm-hmm. I like the idea of a twin-stick shooter that focuses on exploration. It's one of those things, again, even though Lovers in a Dangerous Spacetime wasn't exactly this way, that was structured very much around co-op. But the exploration aspect of Lovers in a Dangerous Spacetime is what made that game fun to come back. Well, fun to play in the first place. The co-op, the frantic co-op, is what made it fun to, replay. At least in my opinion. I like how the idea of it is that you can take more than just a single hit, unlike some games in this generalized style. But so it's not just a shoot 'em up with one single thing, but something with exploration and puzzles and power-ups and more than one chance. As somebody who regularly needs more than one chance, I appreciate that. But Mr. Nice Guy, you brought it up real well that anybody can make a slick video these days, and oftentimes that video can give you an idea that the reality is not quite the same. And you know me, I'll always ask for a playable demo in order to really show that you can deliver the type of experience that you are trying to do. And
Yep.
unfortunately, this does not come with a playable demo, which is certainly surprising to me considering how quickly the turnaround is supposed to be for this game. If it's going to be ready to be delivered in November of this year, just a few months away, I expect that we would have some work in progress thing that we could give a shot for. And it's entirely possible that there is and I just missed it. But also, if I missed it and I was looking for it, that's also part of the problem. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of grace there, but, still allow myself room to be wrong. All that being said, for those reasons and some more, I like the idea, but I think I'd have to pass on this one and say kick it for that.
Yeah, 100%. So I am with you, not just because of the lack of a playable demo. It's a tough time to be an indie game.
Yeah.
It's like it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, right? Like, indies are thriving, but if you're going to make an indie, it's got to be good. And this one just doesn't do enough to convince me that it is going to be good, even at $9.99. So, kick for me.
Now, I don't know if this changes anything, but the producer/sponsor backer level would have your logo appear at the startup screen of the game. A mere $400, Mr. Nice Guy, and we could have the Two Nerds in a Pod logo. Nope, not interested. Okay.
No. And how many people are going to buy the game to even see it? That's the thing.
Indeed.
We don't know.
Well, while we do wish Christian here the best, the fellow who's putting the game together, we wish everybody the best in their endeavors. We wish that we could have seen a little bit more, but here's to hoping that you get your dream complete and out there.
Prove us wrong, Christian. Win Game of the Year when you come out, brother. Well, hey, now it is time for Nerd Flex.
Woo-hoo.
A segment where you, the viewers, try to stump the hosts. And you rarely ever do. Mac, is it a test bank? I always ask you that.
So we did a sound test for episode, I believe, 257, 275, so last episode. But I forgot it at the time, so I patched it in after the fact. because I was just so excited. But yeah, to be back doing the recording with you. So, but it is there. So only, I think, of the 35 sound tests that we've done, I think only 7, maybe 8 have been claimed so far. So get out there, guys. Every about 4th episode since episode 135, there's been a sound test. And, we do keep a running list of which ones are unclaimed on the Discord.
Well, Mac, let's go to the test bank today. If you're here live, feel free to get those in the chat. People are a little shy today. I can already tell. But here's question number 1. This is a Metal Gear Solid question. You a Metal Gear Solid person? You like Metal Gear Solid?
I do like Metal Gear Solid. I don't know if I'll get this right, but I like it.
I do too. I don't know a ton. I like the games when I've played them. So here's the question. What appears above enemy heads if they spot Snake? What appears above enemy heads if they spot Snake?
I know this one.
What is it?
It's an exclamation point.
That's what I thought too. We're going to go with that. Final answer. Did you say exclamation point or mark?
I mean, isn't it the same thing?
I'm just kidding around.
Okay.
I think it is too. It says exclamation mark. It's exclamation point. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
1 for 1. Let's go to another question. This is a Final Fantasy question. What is the name of the Al-Bhed Blitzball team?
Oh.
What is the name of the Al-Bhed Blitzball team? Do you actually know? I don't.
No, I don't. I know that the Al-Bhed Blitzball team, I'm pretty sure, is in Final Fantasy X, because that's when Blitzball shows up, although I guess it could have been in Final Fantasy X too. But Al-Bhed Blitzball team. I remember there's the Xanarkand something, the Xanarkand Zephyrs or something, because alliteration's cool. So, what letter does that name start with for the Blitzball team?
Al-Bhed, A-L,
space
B, capital B-H-E-D.
The Al-Bhed, I don't know. The Al-Bhed Alphas? I don't know.
What's like a fictional creature? What are those, like chocobos?
Oh, those are chocobos. They're so cute. I would love to have a chocobo, but I'm
gonna go with the Al-Bhed chocobos. I'm sure that's not it.
Okay, let's do it. Look, and you'll be right.
Nah, it's the Al-Bhed Sykes. P-S-Y-C-H-E-S. Is that pronounced Sykes?
Yeah, just like gonna psych you out in the end.
I knew you were gonna go there. Love that show.
Yeah.
Did you know they made some movies? Psych movies?
I vaguely knew that they had, but I have not seen.
Well, here's a question, and we're going to have to talk about this one logically, because I don't know the answer, but we'll see if we can. It's a Sonic question. In which game does Sonic kiss the human princess, Elise? In which game does Sonic kiss the human princess?
Okay, so I don't know everything about Sonic, right?
Right.
But I do know that in one of the Sonic games, like Sonic hangs out in, like quote the real world, or something approximating the real world. I feel like it might be Sonic 06, but it could also be Sonic Heroes, because I feel like Sonic
it's gotta be like a 3D.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
And so my first thought was Sonic Adventure. But I legit am just guessing. So I'll go Sonic Adventure. What do you want to go with? It's not multiple choice, so we could pick different answers.
Yeah, you're right. I'll go Sonic 06, but I'm going to feel real bad if it turns out to be Sonic Heroes.
Dude, it's Sonic the Hedgehog 2006.
Let's go.
Well done.
Oh, it was a guess. It was a guess. I just feel like in my head I've got this image of Sonic 06 and Sonic standing in front of a bunch of people in like town square or something like that, and they're like humans, and that's the only thing I was going off of. So I'll take the win because I desperately need some, but it's I don't feel good about it, but I'm gonna take it.
Well, cool, Mac. Wanted to go 2 for 3 today, and we did. That's been Nerdflix.
All right, well, now we turn to a little bit of legalese. As a quick PSA, there is a class action against Valve for people who were living in the state of Illinois that might be worth looking into. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. But what we're going to talk about today is not that class action, but rather some more Billy Mitchell talk. We haven't talked too much about Billy Mitchell v. Twin Galaxies, but recently there have been some developments. And you may have heard of some of these, including a little bit of hubbub around Billy's decades-old claim of being crowned Player of the Century by Namco. And while there is some stuff going on there, it runs the gamut of weird, silly, and stupid, but it's probably what you've heard about because of those very reasons. It's like headline worthy. You know, it's kind of like a big deal. What's significantly more interesting for those of you who like to read legal documents, all three of you out there, yeah, I know who you are. I know you guys are weirdos like me. But there is the involvement in the legal documents, it comes to light that of Billy Mitchell's son, William Mitchell Jr., in the case. So the discovery and depositions portion of the case started back in 2022, and we talked about that briefly in episodes 241 and in 252. Feel free to refer back to those for the legalese segments if you want to hear more. But now we've got access to some of that. And here's an interesting quote from page 3. Quote, Twin Galaxies seeks production of communications between plaintiff's son, and counsel. Plaintiff's son, and of course plaintiff here is Billy Mitchell, ostensibly a Manning and Cass law clerk, has written declarations with false statements for witnesses, and those false statements have been submitted as evidence in this case. In fact, this court quoted plaintiff's false evidence written by his son in its order denying Twin Galaxies' special motion to strike. The communications sought are not shielded by attorney-client privilege according to the crime-fraud exception when plaintiff's son suborned perjury. So, a part of Billy's evidence in his claim that this defamation suit against Twin Galaxies was meritorious, was the submission of several declarations that were signed by various people. Among them was one that is called out in this filing. Among them is one by Walter Day, claiming that the current owner of Twin Galaxies, Jace Hall, had already decided to go after Billy Mitchell and had already decided that Billy was a cheater and was going to take him down before the investigation of the scores. Because, and this is part of the statement that Walter Day signed, quote, "How will you feel when I announce Billy cheated?" End quote. That was him saying, Jace Hall said this to me. Walter Day says, Jace Hall said these words to me, and said this meant that Hall had concluded his verdict already. End quote. And that was part of the signed statement by Walter Day. And that was one of the things that the judge said. Remember, it was minimal merit. The judge was like, we aren't even going to look at the evidence. We're just going to say, can you check these boxes? And these statements from Walter Day and others checked those boxes. So they went forward with the lawsuit. From page 13, we get a bit more details. Quote, Walter Day admitted at deposition, brief sidebar, depositions are recorded, they are carried out under oath, and so on. Back to the quote. Quote, Walter Day admitted at deposition that Jace Hall did not say the words he quoted in the June 21st declaration. Day testified that plaintiff's son prepared the declaration for his signature, and the son wrote the false quote and attributed it to Jace Hall. By swearing that Jace Hall had said the quoted words when he did not, Walter Day made a false statement under oath and perjured himself. Plaintiff's son suborned perjury by writing the fabricated quote in a declaration he knew Day would sign and submitted it to this court.
This is wild.
The worst part of all is that this court relied on falsified evidence in denying the motion to strike, resulting in miscarriage of justice by all measures. While there are not additional examples in the filing, at least that I could tell, it is reasonable to infer that if Junior was writing the declarations and having other people sign them, I mean, at least for Walter, it might have happened more than once. And if this one contained lies in order to buttress Billy's case, maybe the other ones might too. And while not recorded under oath during deposition, this is something that Carlos Pinheiro has mentioned, specifically stating that Billy eventually persuaded him to sign things that he knew not to be true and submitted them to the court when he was looking for, people to say that, oh yeah, Billy Mitchell definitely did all of this on original hardware. So all of this is to say, while people are kind of caught up in this whole, Billy Mitchell can't prove that he was crowned as, Gamer of the Century or whatever by Namco, and a lot of people are like, oh, what is that? I think what's way more interesting is when you actually read the document, and it's just like, and it looks like maybe his son is doing a lot of lying under oath, under color of law. Big if true. At the very least, Walter Day, under oath, was, has kind of maybe thrown Billy Mitchell Jr. under the bus. Who knows? We will find out, but it seems to be getting wilder and wilder. And I feel a little bit bad for saying this again, but I said it before that I was excited for us to get to the discovery process because that's when everything was going to get interesting in Mitchell v. Twin Galaxies. And it certainly has turned out interesting so far, and I think it's just going to get more interesting from here on out.
It's interesting, man, because I used to think... So we've both seen The King of Kong, right?
Absolutely. Love King of Kong.
Yeah. Fantastic, right?
Yeah.
And Billy Mitchell has said he doesn't like the way he was portrayed in the video. He's portrayed as the villain. But yet, more and more evidence keeps coming out that's very villainous. You know what I mean? And so it's become harder and harder for me to be like, yeah, I'm a fan of Billy Mitchell, video game player of the century. Now I want to see how this plays out, innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
But I'm neutral at this point. I'm not defending Billy Mitchell. I never really was, but now less so than before.
Sure. Look, Billy Mitchell, whether or not video game player of the century, whether or not whatever, he's got more talent, gaming talent in his pinky finger than I have in my entire body.
Right?
And there's
me too.
And there's no denying that. He will be, he is performing feats that I'm not even going to attempt, and nor do I think I ever could if I wanted to. But you're right. He just seems to be more and more coming out villainous in this. And, yeah, I too am excited. I want to see where it goes because there's just, we'll see what new wild things we learn in the future. But that's not the law. It's just a little bit of legalese.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that has been our show. Thank you for tuning in. But before we go, we have one last segment called What We've Been Watching and What We've Been Playing, where we talk about the cool, nerdy stuff we have been into. Mac, what you been watching and playing, man?
Honestly, I've not been watching and playing a lot, but what little I have been, when we had friends over, we basically treated the whole week as sort of a, D&D day camp type thing. We were playing tabletop games most every time we were all together.
Love it.
So much fun to do it as a team in person. It's like you're saying, couch co-op is great. Couch co-op is amazing when you're playing tabletop. So some board games like Betrayal at House on the Hill and D&D, and not too much in the way of video games, but of course Trinity Fusion that we talked about earlier, and Prodigal. And as for watching, I was everybody else watched Everything Everywhere All at Once. I didn't see it, but I've still got the DVD, so it's in the future for me. But most of what I've been watching have just been, like random little YouTube videos, cooking stuff at the end of the day to chill. I find some cooking YouTubers to be particularly chill and nice to wind down to.
Agree. There's so much good stuff out
Yeah.
there. So speaking of like food on YouTube, one of my, and this is like not really a guilty pleasure, but like it's just kind of like a silly thing I like to do. Like on YouTube, I love watching videos of people doing food competitions. Like, I don't know why, and I don't sit there and watch the whole, like, if it's a 20-minute video, I'm fast-forwarding, right? But it's always super entertaining to me to watch people have a full plate of food, work through it, and either succeed or fail. Like, I don't know why. It's just entertaining to me. So, anyway, I've been watching some of those. I've been watching Secret Invasion, which I think is phenomenal.
Huh?
I have a couple more episodes to go, but I've really been enjoying that. And as far as playing Trinity Fusion and a couple other games that we just recently got for review. But, Mac, we'll keep it at that. We got a couple comments in the chat. What are people into, Mac?
All right. Well, so far it looks like Tiankum2112 has been playing Warhammer 40k, Barbarian, Furious Angels, and has been watching The Boys and Dragon Ball Z Kai. So far I see that's it for what folk are sharing. You said it before. Oh, yeah. You said it before. Looks like people are a little quiet in the chat, but hey, it's a Tuesday.
That's okay. Put us on in the background, do your laundry, and listen. You don't have to be in the chat. We get it. And plus, listen after the fact. Mac, why don't you take us home, buddy?
All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming out and being a part of the show. It has been delightful to have you here with Mr. Nice Guy and I. And if you're listening after the fact, thanks. We look forward to seeing you either at here as we record the show live or maybe in a future live show. Who knows? But in the meantime, twitch.tv/2nerdsinapod. That's with the number 2, of course. On 7 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Central on Tuesdays. Come get nerdy with us. And in the meantime, take it easy, be excellent to each other, and we'll see you then. Bye.
Deuces.